All right, everyone, what an honor. I'm joined today by Gary Yourofsky. And I would say this man needs no introduction because I think most of you will know who he is. But for anyone who doesn't know who Gary Yourofsky is, he was the orator of the best speech you will ever hear, which I think was so monumental in turning so many of us vegan all those years ago. Some of the newer vegans in the chat might have come across some different things that have made them go vegan. But I think anyone who went vegan in maybe the early 2010s, it was probably because of Gary's speech. I'm going to say that's going to be most of you here. So, Gary, so honored for you to be joining me today. How are you doing today, and how are you finding stuff in Germany at the moment with the AV campaign going on?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be on your show, George. The AV people are some of the best activists around. I'm enjoying it, although I feel a little out of my league here. It's not really my bailiwick to be on the streets. You got to remember, I stopped doing street protest in the year 2000. That's how ancient I am. And I took my street protest to the classroom, and AV told me that they took my classroom presentation to the streets. The only difference is AV is doing education-based activism, which is slightly different than the sign-carrying protests that we used to do back in the late 90s and in 2000. I am so impressed with everybody in this group. They're such good soldiers. They walk up and approach people and start talking smoothly right off the bat. It's quite impressive to see.
Yeah, I think so many people would be interested to hear you spitting facts at the AV events. Has anyone recorded any of your outreach footage so far?
Oddly enough, about 15 minutes ago, they sent me a copy of my first two conversions that I made the other day. And I got to tell you, George, I've been out of the game for about 10 years, so I haven't done any face-to-face conversions, even though my speech is still out there converting people. Face-to-face, it hasn't happened, and I did it, and it was emotional, man. I really had tears in my eyes. I'm quite emotional these days after all these years off, and I feel alive again. And it touched my soul, and it was something special. I used to do that all the time in the classroom. I mean, it was constant. 20% of the class, 50% of the class. Sometimes the entire class would go vegan. I would see change happen all the time. So it was a special moment, and we're going to be releasing a video of that really soon, possibly on my new Instagram account. I'm not sure if we can open up my old one. I'm so ancient and I don't care about technology. I don't remember my passwords, so we're having a tough time reopening my Instagram account, which, by the way, I only posted 2 things on anyway because I never got into it. But stay tuned. And in case we can't get into the old account that says the real Gary Yourofsky, it might be something like the new real Gary Yourofsky or something like that. But you can verify that it'll be me because I'll be posting stuff directly.
And I think many people will want to know, actually. So you retired in about 2017. You're back now. Is this a flash in the pan, or are you back for good? Is Gary back for good?
So technically, I retired at the end of 2014. From 14 to 17, I was online. But again, it was never my thing. I don't really understand it. When I grew up and when I started activism, there was no internet. Okay, you can laugh and giggle at the old man. There were no cell phones when I grew up either. So I never really got the hang of it. I consider my retirement at the end of 14 when I did my last lecture at Oakland Community College. If I'm back for good right now, I'm kind of letting the universe guide me. Right now, the universe is guiding me to come on back and do some things. I don't foresee myself doing classroom presentations, but I'm definitely going to be helping the sanctuaries, especially Sasha Farm back in Michigan. It's a place very near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to be doing podcasts, which I'm really enjoying now. I think this is my 3rd or 4th podcast in the past week. I got a bunch more set up next week. I'm going to be doing something. I'm back. The kid is back. I'm in action. We'll see to what degree, but yes, I am back.
Well, we're very happy to have you back. And I think, if you don't mind me making an observation of when you did retire, your comments to people, I could tell you're about to retire because your comments to people were a bit spicy. Like people would just say something that wasn't that. Like I remembered you made a post about these duck hunters dying, and
That was some funny shit, though.
yeah, and I remember some people in the comments just like, Gary, you know, I love you and you're amazing, but I think we should be more compassionate and stuff. And you would absolutely go off on them in the comments section. And I was like, he seems like he's got a shorter fuse at the moment. What's your current kind of mentality with all that kind of stuff? Is your patience back or is it still very thin?
No, I am so calm and peaceful right now. In fact, I used to be a fighter, an infighter too. Now I want to be a mediator. I'm trying to bring people back together and bring calm and peace. I'm trying to explain to people, listen, we're going to have disagreements. We're human beings. Just because you disagree with somebody on one topic, disagree with me because I said this, doesn't mean you have to toss me out completely, because you should not be agreeing with anybody 100% of the time. That's nonsense. And if you tell me you do agree with somebody that much, you're lying, or the person you're talking about is lying to you. But we can look past our differences and we can still get together and focus on the animals. The animals matter the most. So even if you don't like my opinion on celebrating when duck hunters die, or not getting involved in human rights activism anymore, you can still say, man, that speech was kick-ass, and Gary converted hundreds of thousands of people around the world, maybe millions, they're telling me, to veganism, and I did so much for the animals. You should support me for that cause, for that reason alone. So, and by the way, somebody told me I went off on you too at one time, that you had
I was hoping someone wouldn't bring that up.
Yeah, I think Paul told me. I don't remember. If I did to anybody, I'm sorry, man. Listen, come see me after you've been vegan for 29 years, after you were in the trenches for 18 years. The stress built up on me, which is why I had to back down. It was destroying me. It was harming my body too. I knew I had to stop in 14 doing classroom lectures. Do you want to hear? I got some crazy war stories, which is kind of something I want to tell now these days. Like, you won't believe the crazy things that happened to me. Do you want to hear one? This is what I knew.
Okay. Yeah, I'd absolutely love to hear one. But just before you start, just one observation I've made. Yeah, just for anyone who is critical of Gary having a short fuse previously, I've been online in the vegan movement since about 2014 or something like that. Think how annoyed we get at seeing comments just for 10, 12 years. Plants feel pain, lions eat meat. Now imagine that for 29 years in the classrooms and people saying that to your face. Like, so that's just to help people understand. But yeah, we would love to hear some of your stories, actually, Gary. Go ahead.
I used to want to educate, then at the end of 2014, I wanted to annihilate, because I didn't understand the arguments anymore. I'm asking people to not rape somebody else, not steal somebody else's baby, not confine somebody else against their will, and not to murder somebody and view them as an object. And I was getting pushback. Now, as I say this, I want everybody to know the vast majority of all my lectures were wonderful. I averaged about 200 lectures every year. 180 to 185 were beautiful, not a divisive comment. But those 15 to 20 lectures that ended up turning into a Jerry Springer show, it built up on me over the years, and it got to me. So telling stories about turning the whole class vegan, that's not a good story to me. It sounds arrogant. Oh my God, everybody cried and told me I changed their lives. They stood up in a line to exit the room to shake my hand. That's not the entertaining stuff. To me, the entertaining stuff was the crazy shit that went on. So I'm in California. I'm doing a lecture. I'm on the second floor. It's part of the story I have to tell you. So some kid brings up, God says it's okay to kill animals, one of the dumbest comments. So I became an expert in the Bible over the years, had to talk to so many people. So I completely annihilated his argument. And at the end of the Q&A, he says to me, What'd you bring up God for anyways? I said, asshole, you asked me about it. You're the one that brought it up. And I had a Bible in my hand and I actually threw it at him and I just missed his head. It went right over his head. And I said, class is dismissed. Everybody get the hell out of here. So I walk outside in the hallway. I'm fuming, I'm steaming. And Erica, my ex-wife, was there with me. By the way, I know I said in the last video people saw my wife. We didn't really want to tell anybody yet. I didn't know how to phrase it. But Eric and I ended our relationship last August. Still great friends, wonderful friends, actually still living together too. But so Eric is in the hallway. She's trying to calm me down. The student starts posturing me walking down the hallway with his chest out. Not a good idea to do to me. She knows me obviously as well as anybody. It says not to me. She says to the guy, sir, don't do that. You don't know what's about to happen. Please stop. He comes back a second time to posture me. I cannot believe the audacity and the balls on this guy to do this. She says again, she pleads, sir, do not do this to him. You don't understand what's about to happen. He comes back a third time. I grab him by the neck. I hang him over the balcony. I said, I'm going to throw you off the balcony. I'm going to show you what it's like to be an animal. You want to get treated like a cow? I'll treat you like a chicken. So Erica's grabbing me around the neck. Gary, don't throw him off the balcony. I'm going to throw you off the balcony. The kid's freaking out. She finally pulls me off the kid. The kid runs away. So I got to go tell the professor what happened, of course. So I walked back to the class and I said, hey, Alan, you know that kid that brought up the Bible and God? He goes, yeah. I said, well, he was posturing me in the hallway and I grabbed him by the neck. I was going to throw him off the second floor balcony. He says, Gary, you got to stop doing lectures on the second floor. So, and then he says, by the way, that kid's a jerk. I can't say anything to him because I'm the professor. Thank you for doing that to him. So what was funny was the people that I got into a quarrel with, surprise, surprise, they were the troublemakers. They were the jerks. They were the dickheads always. And the professors always thank me for yelling at them, saying the same thing. I'm the professor. I can't say anything. Thanks for doing that. But at that time, I knew my fuse was way too short. And I didn't want to throw a smart aleck off a second floor balcony. He was just being a jerk. That's not what I'm talking about. I know people have read my essays or heard my comments about supporting violence. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about busting into a slaughterhouse with guns drawn and pulling guns on the people with knives committing acts of cruelty going, you drop your weapons. That would be justified in my eyes. Busting into a vivisection lab, say, you guys stop torturing these monkeys and these rats. You are the violent perpetrators. And if I have to use violence to stop you, then I'll stop you. It's not about throwing a smart aleck off a second floor balcony. And it's not about blowing up a McDonald's, which I would not support. Those are robots that are in there. Those are the people that I want to teach. I want to educate, want to deprogram, want to unbrainwash. So a lot of people misunderstood a lot of my comments over the years and maybe today. And hopefully over the next, who knows how long, I'll be able to explain my positions a little more so people can understand where I'm coming from. But again, be in the movement in the trenches as long as I have, and you'll see that your temper is a little short after a while, and maybe you're not so calm. Because when I started, I actually found an old article from back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where I was lecturing in rural Ohio. And I actually said to the newspaper guy, I would not want anything bad to happen to Greg, the pig farmer that I talked to today. We had a discussion. So it started off where I didn't want anyone to be harmed. But after all those years, I'm like, you know what? Humans are a scourge. We suck. We don't understand compassion and decency. Nowadays, I actually refer to us as the smartest, dumbest beings that ever existed. The smartest, dumbest, right? Technologically, holy shit, I can't even believe we're having a conversation right now. You can't explain this to me. Spaceships, TV sets, cell phone. I don't get it. But we can't be kind to the animals. We can't be kind to the earth. We can't be kind to each other. So we are the smartest, dumbest beings that have ever existed.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I love that story there. I'm wondering actually, Have you seen Christspiracy yet?
I have, yes. In fact, that was the first documentary I've seen in a long time, because I also stopped watching all the documentaries over the years. I'd already gathered all the information I had needed over the years, and I was just so focused on my classroom presentations. I wasn't even keeping up with what was going on in the movement. I was in my own world doing my activism as best as I can. But the producers contacted me before it came out. I think one of them said I influenced them to become vegan or influenced them to become a great activist.
Right.
And they asked me to watch it and give them a commentary. In fact, you want to hear something really interesting that I thought of after that?
Yeah.
So here I am watching Christspiracy. I know most of the stuff that's in there, but something clicked in me where humans are thieves. We stole all the land on the planet from the animals. We steal from each other back and forth. We lie all the time. It made me realize that we stole something else very valuable. So first of all, the animals, we steal their lives. We steal their skin. We steal their babies. We steal their flesh. We stole their Messiah. Jesus did not come here for us. And let me prove it to you. Where was Jesus born? And I don't mean the city. If somebody says, oh, Nazareth, Nazareth doesn't exist. It's Jesus the Nazarene. That was a sect from the Essenes, a sect from the Pythagoreans, a strict vegan societal line. But Jesus was born in a manger, in a barn. Who lives in a barn?
Right.
Animals. Jesus's last act before he was crucified was not only throwing the money changers out of the temple, opening up the cages to let the animals go free. So they killed him for being an animal liberationist. Surprise. He came for the animals. He died for the animals. We stole their Messiah. He is theirs, not ours, just like humans, though, to say, oh, that belongs to us. Jesus belongs to them. And Jesus would never condone the horrible, evil things that we do to his babies. In fact, every time we murder an animal, we murder Jesus. We murder a piece of God. We murder a piece of Buddha. We murder a piece of Moses, Muhammad, whatever holy being you want to pray to and believe in. When you kill these holy beings, you are killing a piece of them.
Yeah, and what you're saying there, it reminds me actually of a comment you made a while back that you still get heat for today, because people falsely label you as a Zionist. But actually, the comment you made was that the land that there's this dispute going over, it doesn't belong to either of them. And you said the Americas didn't belong to whites or the natives. Who do you say the land belongs to, Gary?
The land belongs to the animals. We stole it from them. We're all thieves. And then we fight over, wait, is it the Palestinians? Is it the Israelis? Is it the Americans, the Native Americans? It belongs to the animal kingdom. But I also don't see a reason why we all can't live peacefully amongst each other. And that includes the animals. And if people want to build a mosque next to the synagogue, next to the church, go in and pray to the invisible man in the sky and come back out. Who gives a shit? Why do we have to fight over whose invisible man in the sky is realer, is more genuine? It's nonsense. And something else I want to bring up about this whole Palestinian-Israeli issue. And I said this during my speech. It's lip service. It doesn't mean shit. Your opinion on the issue, my opinion, doesn't mean shit. If you care so much about either side, jump on a plane, fly to Israel, fly to Palestine, and take up arms. Otherwise, it's bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. Do you really think the Israeli government cares what a bunch of people somewhere else has to say about what they're doing? Do you think Hamas cares, if you're on the Israeli side, what they're doing to the Israelis? It doesn't matter. It's like, think about other issues too, like the Darfur genocide. It doesn't mean anything unless you get on a plane and go there and go to the Sudan and take up arms for the gay people that are getting killed in Uganda, or the gay people being discriminated against in Budapest. Your opinion in London and America and Germany doesn't mean a fucking thing. Accept it. But I'll tell you what means something: veganism. Because you can do something about it right here, right now. And that's why I want people to leave human rights out of the animal rights movement. What are you trying to influence when you bring some kind of a sign about Palestine or Israel into an animal rights demo? Right now, we can influence people to stop supporting baby pigs having their testicles ripped out, chickens having their beaks sliced off, female animals being raped and having their babies stolen from them. I just don't understand the obsession with human rights. And George, one more thing. And this, people, listen to me, 29 years vegan, analyzing this. I now firmly believe the number one impediment to the progression of animal rights is human rights. Because once you bring humans into the mix, guess who doesn't get talked about anymore? And they rarely get talked about as it is. We have to stop focusing on humans and acting like humans are on the top pedestal, because as far as I'm concerned, we're not. Anyways, we're the scourge of the earth. But here's what human rights people do. They say, well, we'll get to the animals later. Let's focus on the gays and the trans and the blacks. And I say, I'm not saying that gays and trans and blacks don't deserve equal rights. Of course they do. But I'm saying opposite. I'll tell you what, why don't we get to the cows, pigs, chickens, and turkeys first, and then we'll get to the gays, the trans, because that's what you're doing back to us. And then we feel like, oh, we have to accept that because we all worship at the altar of humanity. And it's nonsense. Put the animals first. And as far as I'm concerned, we can't find peace amongst each other until we destroy evil at its root. And that root is speciesism. You teach a child to be nice to a mouse, a spider, cat, a chicken, a pig. How can they look to their fellow human in anger? We're doing it backwards, and that's why we've made virtually no progress amongst human beings on this planet. We're still as vile and disgusting as we've always been. There's still wars going on all the time. Is there ever a time on this planet when we're not fighting and killing somebody else because we don't like the way they look, the way they act, or what they believe in?
Yeah, it's what I keep telling a lot of these people that you're talking about, the human supremacists. There's never been a single period in human history that wasn't saturated in blood, rape, slavery. Every single year that humans have existed on this planet, that is the key thing that the human species has been engaged in. There's never, ever been a more violent or oppressive species than us. And there's a great book, Eternal Treblinka. I assume you've probably read it. It talks about how animals were the first ever slaves. So we modeled human slavery on animal slavery. So the oppression of animals, it's what led to all these things right now. It even talks about it actually in Christspiracy, even the term capitalism. And I'm not going on like an anti-capitalist rant here or anything, but just talking about the trading of goods. Capita, head count. It was the head counts of those animals that they trading. Animals were the first slaves ever. And that's where also chattel slavery comes from. Chattel is cattle. So we modeled all this on what we did to animals.
There's no doubt we became experts at oppressing and enslaving each other because we did practice on the animals first. And that's why whites became so good at oppressing blacks. And that's why men became so good at oppressing women and so on. There is no doubt about that. Those were the first victims. So we need to clear that debt first before we move on to everyone else. Eternal Treblinka, yeah, that was definitely a great book.
And I've got 4 super chats coming in here, Gary. So these are all donations to Sasha Farm. Moody Magpie says, Gary, the vegan movement in the UK is overrun by those more focused on gatekeeping and wokeism, and AR orgs are pandering to this to be politically correct, cancelling, banning countless dedicated activists. Thoughts? And I think I know your thoughts, Gary, but go off.
I think it's outrageous. Again, and listen, and people have wanted to ban and cancel me. I never signed up to be a human rights activist. Why do I have to speak on a topic that somebody else wants me to speak on when it's not from my heart? When I was at the circus, when that elephant caught my attention, I made a promise to him that I would give my life to him and his kind. not to human beings. Just so people know, though, before I started animal rights, I actually, 1992, look it up online, the Declaration of Misrepresentation, put my name in with that. I did an anti-racist rap. I wanted to be a rapper. So I didn't start out this way. Humans made me this way. Humans made me hate them because of how they act, especially towards the animals. So the wokeism has to end. And listen, I'm not telling you not to believe what you want to believe. I'll believe what I want to believe. I'm just saying at the animal rights demonstrations, leave the human rights stuff out of it. And here's a perfectly good reason why. In Budapest the other day, I believe there were over 100,000 people marching for gay rights. How many signs do you think said everybody needs to go vegan, stop stealing calves from their mothers on dairy farms? No, because they know that if they bring cows and pigs and chickens into the human rights discussion, well, guess what? The gays don't get talked about. So don't give what you're not getting in return. And we need to stop acting like, oh, we have to pander to the human rights people. No, force the human rights people to listen to us. Take control. Make them become vegan and not be a hypocrite. Think about this, too. Every human being is demanding life, liberty, and happiness. Yet they refuse to give it to the animals. Mm-hmm. Talk about being a hypocrite and practicing hypocrisy. I've had enough of it. It makes me nauseated to hear them talk about justice when they refuse to give it out.
Yeah, 100%. And I sound like a broken record repeating this, but it seems that the animal rights movement is the only movement that intersectionality is applied to. Because when it comes to Black Lives Matter, they hate a motherfucker who shouts all lives matter or white lives matter. They say, no. This is just, we understand that all lives matter, but this is about Black people. But then what happens in the animal rights movement? We'd like to keep this focused on the animals. How dare you? Don't you know that all lives matter? There's people dying in Palestine. So they're the all lives matter people of the animal rights movement. They're the exact people they hate, except worse, because they are extremely inconsistent. It's consistency that I care about. I wouldn't even care that much if these people were applying that same energy to the other movements. Those people in the movement who are saying stuff like, George, you're not vegan because you haven't spoke about Palestine or whatever it is. I wouldn't actually care that much, Gary, if they were saying to the pro-Palestinian, you're not pro-Palestinian unless you're vegan. But they won't say that shit.
Let me throw something else out there. And I just talked about, I started out being an anti-racist, but they even admit how bad the animals got it. So after George Floyd and all the other people were abused and killed by the American police force, and the American police force does have an issue for some reason with Black people when they encounter them, they used to say that they treated us like a dog in the street. They killed us like a dog in the street. Well, in order for that analogy to work, they had to find somebody who was treated worse than they were. And where can you only go to find that? The animal kingdom. Mm-hmm. They said it, they admit it. I've become an expert analyzer over the years, and when I heard it, I'm like, you realize that they just admitted to everything that we're trying to tell people. Animals are treated as nothing, like their lives don't matter, like they don't count. In order to show that a Black person's life doesn't matter, they had to use a dog as an example.
Yeah, and they do. Yeah, they do this with Holocaust as well. You're the first person that ever put it to me that what's happening to animals is a Holocaust, which is why I changed right. And you've had so much heat for this. But then what do they say, Gary? They say, the Holocaust was bad because the Jews were treated like
animals.
Exactly. So you can't say that animals are treated like Jews in the Holocaust, but they're allowed to say that the Jews were treated like animals. So
it's crazy because if you go to Auschwitz or Treblinka and you remove the Jews and put in animals, in everybody's eyes, when they think logically, you still have a Holocaust. But all of a sudden, for the human rights people, they say, no, now it's okay. But if you take the animals out and put Jews back in, all of a sudden, It's a disaster. It's a tragedy. So my question, I think I posed when I was in Israel doing lectures was, is the building, is the slaughterhouse the problem, or is it who's getting killed in the slaughterhouse? Because I thought the slaughterhouse was the problem. I thought Auschwitz, the slaughterhouse, was the problem, but apparently it's only a problem if two-legged creatures are getting killed in there. Four-legged creatures, it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's complete hypocrisy. We've got a nice super chat coming in from Blue Moon Kina, who donates £20 to the Sasha Farm. They say, I'm actually so emotional right now watching this. Just want to send you both all the love. You're an amazing voice for the animals.
Oh, well, thank you very much for the love. And by the way, when I did the fundraiser in Frankfurt a couple weeks ago for Sasha Farm, I hope people realize I never did this for adoration. That's why you don't see any books that I wrote that are out there. I consider the speeches that I did my audio books. So it was kind of weird to have everybody fawning all over me. Don't get me wrong. It's amazing to see the lives I've affected. Everybody there was a Gary vegan, which is what I say nowadays. And if they didn't become vegan because of me, they all told me they became an activist because of me, which is just as good in my eyes and the eyes of the animals. So I ended up telling stories so people weren't hanging up because it was weird to be like having all that. A lot of people want that spotlight. I only wanted the spotlight so I can speak for the animals because I thought I spoke for them quite eloquently and properly. And I spoke for them like I would want to be spoken for if I were in their position. That's the only reason I was always putting myself out there. But it was never about, oh, Gary, look at Gary. That's why when I disappeared. People don't know where I was. You didn't see me doing anything. I turned down 3 book offers over the years. That's not what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be active and do as much as I could do. In fact, in 2000, when I decided that I wasn't going to do street demos anymore and show up at all the animal rights conferences, I also got tired of that stuff. I noticed that over the years, I spent the late 90s going to every animal rights conference in America. And then I kept seeing the same faces. And I said, well, wait a second. We're all just traveling from city to city to hang out with each other and pat each other on the back. Well, when are we going to actually do something and stop having meetings about the discussions and discussions about the meetings and debates about the meetings and the discussions? Let's debate the discussion about the last fucking meeting. I said, you know what? I am now going to go do whatever I can do. So when I was in those classrooms, and virtually I was on tour by myself most of the time, those 25 students, those 50 students, those 100 students, that was my focus. I am going to reach as many people as I can reach today, and that's today's activism. I took that word seriously, active. The root word of activism is active, so I became active until I could no longer become active anymore. So I'm going to ask everybody to stop having the meetings, put those ideas into action. I mean, seriously, I learned everything on the fly. Paul and I were talking about it this week. You think I had a plan? I'm going to go say something to the classroom and see if it works and see what sounds good. And then all of a sudden I pieced it together. And then by 2010, that Georgia Tech speech that everybody loves, this is 8 solid years of nothing but lectures. Yeah, I found the formula. I laid it out perfectly. And in my head at that time, just so you know, for each section, each paragraph, I said I had about 10 to 15 different paragraphs and sections I could insert at any given time, depending on how the crowd was responding. If they were being sarcastic, oh, I had some sarcastic shit. If they were being serious, oh, we got serious, whatever. If they were sad, actually, I piled on the sadness. They were being bullies. Well, I bully the bully. I can bully back better than anybody. So it was such a crazy brain that I had at one time, which I kind of lost over the years. Right now, I tell people part of the reason I stopped too, my brain melted. I just can't deal with the insanity of human beings anymore. So there's only about half of my brain working right now. So I don't think I'm as sharp as I used to be. But in my heyday, man, it was some tight shit. I'm telling you, it was tight. You saw a lot of it.
Oh, we saw a lot. And I think you're still sharp, Gary. We've got another super chat here. Marcos Zuganellis donates 20, I don't know what that euros, I think, to Sasha Farm. Says vegan forever. Thank you, vegan activists. And then we've got a question here, Gary, €5 from Gianni Palagi. Gary, when will you be in Italy?
Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry to all the Italian activists. I had a horrible experience out there when I was lecturing in Israel in 2012 and 13, which was some stunning stuff, by the way. I think they're reporting I converted anywhere from 5 to 10% of the population. I'm so glad I got to see that on my way out. But I flew to Italy to do some lectures, although I didn't want to, because I knew there was going to be a language barrier, and I just don't understand how it was supposed to work with how am I supposed to preach to people when they don't understand, even with a translator. So I show up in Italy, though, for a lecture. There's several hundred people there, and I had to stop after every sentence so they can translate it. And you see my speaking style. I can't be stopped. I couldn't get in the flow. I kept forgetting what was like. Wait, what am I supposed to? So I ended up walking off the stage. But honestly, Italy, I sincerely apologize. I don't know if I'm going to come back because of the language barrier. But hey, if there's any Italian podcasters that are fluent in English, get a hold of me. Contact me, the real Gary Yourofsky at Gmail. I am saying yes to every single podcast right now. I don't care how few listeners and viewers you have. If you guys want to talk to me, this is actually what I'm being drawn to right now, just to preach and tell stories and maybe guide activists on a better path.
That's amazing. And just a quick note on the Italy thing, Gary. I can tell you this as a European, something has changed now in Italy where English is now much more fluent among the younger population. So you won't, if you do a classroom lecture now in Italy, you probably won't need a translator. Back then, they were known as I'm talking like 10, 12 years ago, they were known as like the country in Europe where you just kind of have to know Italian to get around. But English proficiency is very good now among young Italians. So you should be fine.
Maybe I'll be back. Who knows? Listen, I don't know. Just like I never planned things in the past, I have no idea. Wherever the universe takes me is where I'm going right now. And it took me to, in fact, you want to hear something quick and funny? The reason I'm here is I was debating going to Frankfurt because I had converted somebody down there, great activist near Rosenfeld. He's got 7 vegan restaurants in Frankfurt. And I contacted him. I said, don't get too excited, but I'm considering coming down there just to hang out and check out these restaurants. And then I didn't talk to Paul for at least maybe 3 years. And Paul called me out of the blue, Paul Bashir. And I said, hey, man, what's up with you? He said, we're doing a big Cube of Truth in Cologne this year. I said, what? Of all the gin joints in all the world, you're going to be in Cologne this summer? He said, why? I said, because I'm considering going to Frankfurt. How far is Cologne from Frankfurt? I said, man, it's like 45 minutes or an hour train ride. I said, okay, the universe has spoken. I'm coming to Germany. So this is why I'm here. The universe brought me here.
Amazing. Then we've got just a simple donation from Caroline, just super chat for Sasha Farm. Thank you, Caroline, for donating that. We've got one here from Jalen. He asks, Gary, do you like Vegan Gains?
Oh, Vegan Gains is my boy. Actually, we always got along way back in the day. In fact, tune in to Vegan Gains podcast next week, because guess who's going to be on it? Off the top of my head, I think it's next Monday. 5 o'clock German time. I don't know if it's live. Again, I don't understand the podcast world, live, recorded, whatever, but it's going to be done next Monday. So I love Vegan Gains. We've always been tight. Great actor.
And you can tell by the way he talks that he's very, very much inspired from.
And by the way, I am jealous. I do have some pretty decent pipes, but not Vegan Gains pipes, man. No. That boy's got some pipes.
Yeah, he's benching 400 pounds right now, I know. So that's pretty impressive. We've got a generous donation here to Sasha Farm from Samuel M. He says, hey, Gary, I recently started a non-profit to help sanctuaries play a stronger role in the animal rights movement and engage the public more effectively. We are starting in France, but I'd love to know how we could help US sanctuaries too.
Well, listen, all the sanctuaries are struggling now, and that was the speech I gave in Frankfurt. For some reason, everybody thinks it's a waste of money to take care of a cow, which I find to be offensive because we kill about 1 billion cows on the planet every year, and we can't take care of a couple of hundred, a couple of thousand who have escaped the hellholes that we created. I think it's obscene that we would say, I'm sorry, hay costs too much for your 20 years of life. They deserve everything, no matter what it costs. So Sasha Farm is in a bad situation now because the founder passed away in 2021. And then the other founder is demanding that we pay for the 50 acres of property instead of just giving it to us and letting the new generation carry on with it. So it put us behind the 8 ball by $675,000, which is what 50 acres of land goes for. It's a fair price, but I just, to me, if I created something like that after 40 years and I was old and I was going to retire, I would find just the perfect person. Hey, will you please make sure my baby lasts forever? So we negotiated a land contract. He took $250,000 out as a down payment, which really messed us up because now we're under $100,000. And it costs $250,000 a year to run the place, but now we still owe him $425,000. So unless we get a major donor to come through for us, Sasha Farm is probably not going to survive, which is why I decided to come back as well. That was the main impetus for this. I've been going there for 30 years. My heart would absolutely shatter if that place closed down because it was my Garden of Eden personally. I mean, when I needed to decompress, I drove up to Manchester, Michigan, and I walked around and I hugged and I kissed Big Red, and I hugged and I kissed Bima and all those pigs, and Gary Tofu, who was a pig there for a long time. I did make them name him after me. I was there the day somebody brought this baby pig. I'm like, there's a baby pig in that van. And I ran up to it. I'm like, you have to call him Gary Tofu. And he was everybody's favorite for a long time. So, send in donations, but you guys are also going to be in a bad situation over there in France too. We just, as vegans, as a movement, we need to hype up the sanctuaries. They're important places. Again, if we're going to convince people not to harm animals, for crying out loud, some animals are going to need a place to stay. So sanctuaries are essential, but there's something really bad in the movement, claiming that I think they're terming it effective altruism, that is just there's money, better spent elsewhere. But I kind of created this, by the way. I was convincing people in early 2000 that if there's a pie chart to activism and all the things that we could be doing, education back then was only about 2 to 5%, if that. And I was saying, this is crazy. We need to teach people. We didn't know at one time, unless we teach people, nothing's going to change. So I wanted more of it. I didn't mean for it to be 100%. I meant for it to be 75, 80, 85, maybe 90%. But there are other things that are valuable, such as advertising. Right. A very valuable form of activism to get out there. In fact, PETA's doing some amazing stuff in Germany. There's billboards all over this country. PETA put them up with animals lying down, and they're asking people, is this animal dead or sleeping? I think advertising is a great form of activism, but I think sanctuaries too are an essential piece of this puzzle. So please, everybody who's donating, don't just donate to education-based activism. Yeah, make sure you support that because that's where it's at. But help those sanctuaries out. They need it. These animals deserve everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Gary. And then we've got another. I'm really interested to hear this one. It's from Stop Having Kids. They donate $20 to Sasha Farm. They say, loving this conversation. Such a refreshing video. What are Gary's thoughts on anti-natalism and vegans making babies? Did Gary get a vasectomy? Much respect to you and Sasha Farm Sanctuary. Help sanctuaries, not Starbucks.
Gary did not get a vasectomy. Gary just practices safe sex. Listen, I wouldn't bring a kid into this world. And understand, this is my opinion for anybody that's kind of don't. Okay, if you want to bring a vegan baby into this world, I can see that point too. And I know people with vegan babies, and it's great. And maybe next generation of activists too. This world is so evil and so horrible, and we're such a scourge. Even when we're vegan, by the way, we still cause trauma to the earth, right? We still drive cars. We still live in homes that used to be natural areas. We have air conditioning in certain places, not in Germany, not in London, but we still, we buy stuff, even if we buy Even if we recycle, like recycling's not even the best of the R's. Reducing and reusing are much more important. Everything should be biodegradable, but that's a whole nother discussion. So we're still making waste as vegans. The thing that I like, though, vegans are the only group that are actually making an effort and actually do something positive. I don't believe anybody else is making a proper effort in doing anything positive to this planet. So personally, I don't think it's a good idea. But I can't speak on that definitively like I speak on ending the abuse of animals. I'm going to leave that up to obviously the mom and the dad.
Sure. Okay, we got another super chat in. Olawali Blue Vegan donates $5 to Sasha Farm. They say Gary is the answer to all the nice. Sorry, it's a question. Gary is the answer to all the nice buddy vegans. Be kind to carnists to make them change. Glad Gary brings the heat and is unapologetic.
Yeah, listen, man, you can't let anyone off the hook. Listen, I'll let you. It doesn't mean you can't have vegan friends and acquaintances. Of course, I do. My oldest friend, you might have heard me mention his name at one point or another, Darren. We've been friends since we were 8 years old. He's still not vegan, but I told him, I said, when they come and round you motherfuckers up, you can't invoke my name to save yourself. I'm not saving you either. You made your own bed. You're going to continue to be an oppressive prick. Okay, that you're going to have to deal with that. So still my friend, and he laughed about it when I said it. Because listen, and keep in mind, I hope people see. But here, people don't really know. I patterned myself after two people: early Malcolm X and George Carlin, the philosopher comedian. So when you're getting this spicy wit. Okay, this is George Carlin speaking. There's truth and sarcasm. So ease up when I'm saying this. Don't be hating. Gary's too harsh. This is how Carlin used to speak about everything. His one bit about everyone has a child fetish. I'm tired about help the children, feed the children, save the children. What about the children? You and I say fuck the children. They're getting entirely too much attention. So this is where I'm coming from too. So listen, let them know where they stand. You can be friendly with them, but don't let them off the hook. Darren never gets let off the hook, by the way, and none of my meat-eating friends. In fact, I have a rule that I instituted in 1997. If you eat with me, you eat vegan, or we don't eat together. It's as simple as that. And there's no, oh, but is it okay if I have some? No, it's not okay. One meal, you can eat vegan with me, and if not, you're just being a prick. So stop it. I would all vegans institute that rule. Friends, family, all that stuff. Don't let anybody off the hook just because they're close to you. In fact, you should be angrier with them, like I am with Darren. I'm like, Darren, you know the hundreds of thousands of people around the world that I've converted, and my oldest, dearest friend of 40 plus years still hasn't changed, or my family. The same thing. I'm like, they used to get mad at me about, how I was. I was like, you know how embarrassing it is and how heartbreaking it is that strangers come up to me crying and say that I changed their lives, but my own family doesn't even get it. This is outrageous to me. I'm not the one that's being outrageous. They are, and meat eaters are outrageous. That just goes with the territory. So don't ever let anybody off the hook. Doesn't mean you can't be friendly to them. We live in a society. You're going to have to deal with other people. You should see me at the gym, by the way. When I walk in the gym, and most of them are meat eaters, I converted several people there, but I say hi to everybody. Hey, Adrian. Hey, Mr. Ed. Hey, Big John. Hey, Chris. Hey, Kat. What's up? Everybody knows me. Hey, Gary, how you doing? Hey, whatever. We're living in a society, but nobody gets let off the hook for their lifestyle.
Yeah, no, very sound advice. We've got a super chat in here, €50 to Sasha Farm from Gianni Pelagi again. Hi, Gary. I'm Gianni, an Italian policeman who became anti-speciesist 14 years ago, thanks to you. I try to bring your message to my colleagues. Thanks again. I hope to see you soon in Italy.
Awesome. Italy's been rocking, man. Italy's doing some good stuff, and there's a lot of Gary vegans down there too.
And we've got a very spicy super chat just coming now from Cats Meow. 10 Canadian dollars, I think that is, to Sasha Farm. What does Gary think about Vegan Gains' weird theory about killing predatory animals? And if you don't know about this, Gary, I can fill you in. But yeah, this is a stance he holds.
Well, I don't know about it, but I'm pretty sure that I was the first person to come up with this. My last speech that I gave, I opened it up by condemning carnivore animals. In the very near future, by the way, George, maybe you can be one of my first new members to my group. I'm going to have a new group called HO. Herbivores only. Herbivores are the only beings on this planet to achieve peace. Now, listen, I like the carnivore animals too, the lions and the tigers and the hyenas. Yeah, but I don't like them at dinner time. They've lost their minds, just like meat-eating humans have lost their minds when it comes to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm on the side of the victims. Here's what I don't like when people want to defend lions eating zebras. What they're saying is, fuck the zebra, the lion has to eat. Well, my position is, fuck the lion, the zebra has to live. Why does everybody condemn the herbivore animal? They're the only ones living in peace, and they're the ones that get it the worst. In fact, think about the animals that we eat. We don't eat lions. We don't eat hyenas. We don't eat jackals. We don't eat snakes. We eat cows, one of the most peaceful beings on this planet. Domesticated pigs, one of the most peaceful beings on this planet. The herbivores always have it worse. And since the herbivores are always running away from the carnivores when they're being attacked, can't you tell that they don't want to be on the menu? They don't want to be somebody else's dinner? So I think it's quite perfectly normal to condemn the lion or whatever other meat eater is out there. In fact, but hold up, I do want to clarify. I'm not going to go to the jungles of Tanzania and try to convince the lions not to eat the zebras. The zebras will have to rise up on their own. In fact, has anybody ever seen, Georgia, you remember that video from Kruger National Park years ago when the lions attacked the buffalo, and then the buffalo ran away and left the one young buffalo there, and you were thinking, oh no, why did they leave the baby? Bullshit, they went and got the cavalry. They came back with 1,000 buffalo. That's what I mean. They're tired of the lions killing their own. And I can prove to you who's right and who's wrong in the animal kingdom. If you go look at any river, any lake throughout Africa, throughout Asia, where all the wild animals are at, there can be a zebra, an antelope, a rhino, a hippo, a giraffe drinking water, and everybody's fine and peaceful. All of a sudden, a lion comes up, or a two-legged monster, the human being. All of a sudden, everybody's freaked out, starts to run away. Because what happens when a lion or a two-legged person comes around? Somebody dies. Okay? The carnivores and the human ones too, we're the ones that are at fault. We're the ones committing evil acts all the time. I'd love to go live with a bunch of bunny rabbits, a bunch of sloths. Because you know what? I know I'm coming home that night. I love to go hang out with all their, well, you put me in a field with giraffes, I will be as happy as a kid on a playground. Put me in a field of lions and hyenas, I dig them, and probably I'll come home, but I might not come home that night. I know I'm coming home if I'm hanging out with the giraffes and the sloth.
And did you know as well, Gary, that elephants have a specific danger call for humans?
Sure, of course. And the animals are brilliant, by the way. They know us. They know the bad beings when they're around. Absolutely. By the way, so did Vegan Gains kind of say the same thing I was saying?
Oh no, he's took it to a different level. He agrees with what you're saying, so he thinks the solution to that is to kill predatory animals. So that's going to be a very, very interesting. Do you know what? I'm not going to have you answer all that right now, because I think we can see he's going to try and grill you on that next week whenever you have this chat with him.
Okay.
Because he's kind of nailed down the philosophy on it, where he's basically said, if the only way to stop rights violations happening in nature is to take lethal action against it, then it's essentially speciesist not to take lethal action against it. That's his thing. He can go into more detail with you about
I got to tell you something, though. Let me add to this. So when I started in the 90s, there was a group called the Fund for Animals. I'm not sure if they're still around. I don't think they are. Cleveland Amory founded it. That was his position. And back then when I started, I thought it was crazy. I remember telling people, that's insane. But 29 years later, the more I analyze and look at things and justice and right and wrong and where the herbivore animals are, I now understand what he was saying about these carnivores, man, have lost their minds. But I think there's hope for them. Just because their body is built to handle raw flesh doesn't mean they need it. every nutrient comes from the earth. They don't have to do it either. I just think they lost their way, like most humans have lost their way. I wish I could pinpoint the time. Maybe it was the ice age when everybody freaked out and vegetation wasn't there. Could have been something like that. Then they got lazy, they got addicted. But I completely understand what Vegan Gains is saying.
Sure. And then, and we're looking forward to hearing your interview with him next week, though, Gareth. So everyone watch out for that. Now, here we've got a good question from Lee, because I was going to ask you this myself. We spoke briefly about it before the stream. Lee Richardson donates £10 to Sacha Farm. He says, Gary, are you still banned from the UK? If not, are you coming to the vegan camp out? I am 10 years vegan because of you, and I am an animal rights activist.
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you, because I haven't checked. In fact, George and I were kind of chit-chatting before the show started about this. Maybe somebody can investigate for me and find out how, get a hold of the home office, I guess. By the way, if anybody wonders exactly what they said to me, you can go to my website. I do have a website most people don't know about, ADAPT. There's 2 T's, ADAPTT.org. If you go to the Gary Yourofsky section at the bottom of that, I actually printed the letter that the home office sent to me. I think it said the ban was indefinite, so it's likely. Although, oddly enough, this year, out of the blue, I decided to contact the U.S. Customs Canadian border, because I'm only 30 minutes from it. And I asked them if I was still banned because of my 1997 mink liberation in Blenheim, Ontario. And they looked it up and said, yes, you are still banned, and you are banned for life. Although they said I could file a form called the Authorization to Return to Canada form and possibly get it overturned. I didn't really have a reason to go to Canada, so I haven't filed it. But I was curious. I'll tell you what, if I'm not banned, there's probably a 95 to 99% assurity that I'm going to be at that camp out. Yes, I will most likely go there. Yes.
Oh, well, that's amazing. And I'm sure Jordan, who's the camp out owner, by the way, I'm sure he's watching this rubbing his hands right now, because I know he'd love to have you. I'll tell you something.
Although one thing, George, I think he got a hold of Paul Bashir, who got a hold of me and said he wanted me to give a speech. Now, keep in mind, I don't give speeches anymore, but it's got to be a format like this. Somebody just has to come up on stage and ask me questions, and then just back off. You can see, like, get out of our way. I don't know how to start anymore. I know it sounds weird because I lived in front of the classroom, but it's a new age for me, and things have changed where I feel better being interviewed.
Yeah. And just on the whole thing about entries into countries and people being banned, I made an observational post about this on Facebook years ago about you in comparison to this guy who should not have been in the country. So there was this horrific murder that happened years back in the UK. It must have been about 2016, 17. A little girl called Alice Gross. And this guy was from, I think it was Latvia, and he had murdered his wife in his own country. And he was still allowed to enter the UK. So this guy is a convicted murderer. He comes to the UK and the Home Office is just like, come on in. He murders a little girl. And then they ban Gary Yourofsky for acts of kindness, as you would say.
The guy that wants to kiss a giraffe before he dies, I got banned. I never even did anything in London. I get the Canadian ban. I went there. I broke into a fur farm. I caused $2.1 million in damage, put the guy out of business. I can understand why they banned me. I never understood why the United Kingdom banned me, never did anything there, which also made me wonder, so if I were an animal killer, then I would be allowed into the United Kingdom, but I want to stop animal killing, and all of a sudden, no, you can't come here and tell people not to kill cows and pigs, Gary. But if you know a better way to kill cows and pigs, you know a better way to cook their flesh and cut up their bodies, hey, man, come on, you'd be a guest. Absolutely. This is the outrageous behavior of humans, the smartest, dumbest beings to ever exist. Yeah, bring the convicted murderer in, but don't let the guy that just wants to play with sloths all day if he could.
Unbelievable. Yeah. All right. We've got a $5 donation here from Greynut32. George, Gary, and Vegan Gains are the ones that made me go from a plant-based normie to an animal rights knight. Getting active. That's great to hear.
Awesome.
We got a super chat here from Annie Rams. £9.99. Great to have you back, Gary. That passion, great chat. Thank you for supporting the sanctuary. P.S. Interview on Rams channel too, please. Yeah, and I guess Gary, I said to David Rams, yeah, cool. Well, I'll drop Gary a question maybe tomorrow, you know, after the stream, just so he's had a bit of cool off time and see if he wants to come on your podcast. But I think you said earlier you're going on
doing
my
anything.
podcast.
Tell him to pass on my number to him. You
Amazing.
have it.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, we've got a question here from Jason Bueno. Donates $9.99. We have a sanctuary here in OK Oliver and Friends. Gary, thank you. You helped me go vegan a couple of years ago. Also, I have to know if you've seen Conspiracy. Yeah, he must have sent this early before we asked that. But yeah, did you just want to clarify in case he's joined the stream a bit late and didn't hear your answer earlier, Gary, about Conspiracy?
Yeah, I definitely saw Conspiracy. It was actually the first documentary I've seen in over a decade, maybe longer. I just stopped watching documentaries over the years because I got the information that I needed to go out and do my activism. My only problem with all the documentaries that do come out and all the books, I'm not sure that they reach the crowd that we need to reach. It seems to be too much preaching to the choir, which is why I never wanted to write a book, because my speech was actually reaching beyond the vegan movement, and my classroom presentations, of course, I made sure that I wasn't speaking to vegans. I mean, I contacted professors all over the country. I was just getting into philosophy, sociology, composition, women's studies, public speaking classes. So there was maybe one vegan in the room, and that was just by chance. So in fact, when I was in Israel for those 2 years of lectures, which was amazing, for all the vegans that showed up to the lecture, I made the people who brought me there stand at the door and say, you cannot enter this lecture unless you have a meat eater with you. So they said, we know all the vegans here. We could actually enforce this. So they were making people go home. You better grab your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your friend. I do not want to preach to the choir. I just don't get it. What's the point of me giving a lecture on veganism to a bunch of vegans? It made my brain melt. I'm like, this is weird. In fact, if you hear my speech, and everybody did, wouldn't it be weird if you're already vegan? I mean, this speech is cutting, and I mean it's wonderful, but it's scolding people into veganism, explaining why you have to be vegan.
Yeah, and that actually leads me to an interesting question I want to ask you. Oh, you're frozen, Gary. Are you still there? Oh God, he's frozen. Hope he can join again. Damn, I hope his internet's okay. Hold on, let me remove him and ask him to come back. Right. Excuse us, guys, while we just deal with Gary's internet issues. Oh, here he is.
Back. I don't know if that
He's
was
back. Okay.
You getting cut off. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Yeah, sorry. Cool. Carry on. Continue what you were saying, Gary. You cut off probably about 15 seconds ago, maybe.
Meanwhile, the brain is melted. I don't even remember 15 seconds ago. So whatever I was saying, that was it.
Cool. All right. Well, I think the thing I was going to ask you about preaching to the choir, is I get condemned when I share something graphic on social media. I get vegans say to me, "Why are you sharing this? I don't want to see this. We're vegans. Why are you sharing this, George? We don't want to see all this torture that's happening in the slaughterhouse. We know what happens." And I say, "Look, I don't want to see it either. I'm not sharing it because of you. I know that you know what happens. I'm sharing it so that non-vegans see it." What are your thoughts there? Do you think it is bad for our mental health and stuff? Do you understand the arguments as to why we shouldn't share graphic images? Or do you think, look, this is just a trade-off we have to take?
Well, listen, if you have non-vegan viewers, you have to show that stuff. I mean, if it was only a vegan channel and you knew 100% vegans, it probably wouldn't be necessary. Although I want everyone to know, when I always showed a slaughterhouse video during my lectures, about 12 to 15 minutes in, I watched it every time with the class. I saw that damn video 2,660 times, and it riled me up. It made me want to continue fiercer. It made me want to just, I got to explain this to them. And it made me so fired up. So I used it, you know, I let it work for me. In fact, some of my best comments always came right after that slaughterhouse video, because I was all riled up. So sometimes people need to see it, maybe to remember why they're vegan or why they're an activist. So it would be good to watch it at times. And listen, I'm here in Cologne right now with Anonymous for the Voiceless. They're showing the videos for 6 straight hours. I'm looking over too when I'm getting pumped up, like, okay, I got to go talk to this person. I got to talk to that person. I got to explain it, because I don't want to see it anymore. But the only way not to ever see it again is to convince everybody to become vegan. So, you know, and if people don't like hearing my voice, you want me to go away? Well, then make everybody vegan and I will disappear.
Yeah, and that's one objection even non-vegans have the absolute audacity to say is why they get angry at us for showing them the footage. And it's like, don't get angry at us for showing it. Get angry at yourself for causing it. Don't stop the activists. Stop what's happening in the pictures.
Exactly.
And then we got a super chat here from Richie Fonsadath. He donates $9.99 to Sasha Farm, and he says, I was going to ask you if you still gave college speeches. By the way, your 2010 video at Georgia Tech inspired me to go vegan in 2016.
Yeah, I stopped in 2014 at the end of that year, 2,660 lectures. And by the way, that is my favorite speech too that I gave. There are other speeches online if you haven't seen them, if you want to get a different view of me. In fact, if you go back to 2002, my first one, it was actually titled Liberator to Educator. It's when actually PETA was funding me. I always needed a sponsor because it was expensive to travel, hotels, airfare, rental cars, food, all that stuff costs money. So from 02 to 05, I was considered PETA's national lecturer. So check out the Liberator to Educator. You can see the growth of Gary, and it's actually very interesting too. And just so you know, I don't sit around watching my old stuff. In fact, I haven't seen my stuff since I retired. And when I knew I was coming to Germany, I started putting it on. I couldn't remember 90% of it. I'm watching this going, oh my God, I said that? Holy shit, that's tight. Okay, I know why people are listening. I know why people follow me. And I would yell out to Erica, do you remember I said that? She goes, yeah, I remember. Everybody remembers but you. So I don't sit around watching it. But a couple months ago, I started flicking around. That Liberator to Educator one. And then there's one with an activist named Kate Timko. I had an idea in 2004 or 5 that if I brought a female on with me and we went back and forth, that the female soft voice would offset maybe my harshness and we'd reach more of the crowd. And what you know it, after the first lecture, and I wrote that whole lecture, not because I'm arrogant, because Kate said, you know how to say things, you write my part too. So I wrote it. And wouldn't you know, 10 guys came up to me, man, I love your stuff. And man, you're kind of a big vegan. Okay, I didn't know you could be big as a vegan. And then 10 women came up to her and said, he's so harsh. I really like what you said and how you said it. And Kate tells me afterward later on, she says, I'm laughing inside because I wanted to tell them he wrote every word that I said. But just like he said, you thought it would come out better because I said it like a woman and it was softer. So that was a cool speech too. And then there were several more along the way. And then I think there was 1 or 2 afterward. Now, the excuses speech, I think, was afterward, my last one. That's when I condemned the carnivore animals. That one, you just have to know that's 18 years in the trenches, and I'm tired of everybody. And I attacked people's belief in God, carnivore animals, the plant argument. I was just going off the circle of life shit. So his speech is, when I look back, it's kind of funny. And I don't know if it makes so much sense to a completely new person into it. You'd have to be almost a vegan to watch that speech and appreciate what I'm saying, because I'm tired of hearing God says it's okay. And what about the plants? In fact, I think a couple months ago, I was thinking about, you know how they always used to throw that dumb comment our way. If there was a dog drowning or a baby drowning, who would you say? So I turned it into, well, if there was a tomato drowning or a dog drowning, who would you say?
Right.
You're jumping in to save the tomato that's floating in the water. Stop it with the plant argument. You're being fucking stupid.
Yeah, and you know that Georgia Tech speech, as it's called, the best speech you'll ever hear video. It's such an iconic video because I think you were doing all these speeches for so long, but this must have been the first one that got recorded and got uploaded to get just a huge amount of views. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, can you kind of remember that day well? Because this, for me, this is a landmark moment in modern animal rights history. Like, what do you remember about the day?
Oh, I could tell you a lot about that day because
Yeah.
I know. So PETA recorded my O2 speech, but we were just handing it out on videos to the students, the DVDs. Nothing got put out on YouTube. Again, I come from a different era where we weren't recording everything and putting everything online. So basically, I've been lecturing for 8 solid years and never released anything to the public. This is how focused I was on what I could do. I didn't care if anybody knew what I was doing anymore. So a student from Georgia Tech, I'll even tell you what his name is, Nathan Black. He contacts me about a week before, a couple days before. He says, "Hey, Gary, it's Nathan. I heard you speak in Professor Hans Klein's class last year, and you changed my life. I became vegan. Do you mind if I show up tomorrow when you're speaking again there? Can I record it? I want to put it on YouTube." I said, "Yeah, I don't give a shit. Show up and record it. What do I care?" So he shows up before class and he meets me there. He wants to mic me up, by the way. That was no mic. I said, no, we're not playing games with microphones and lighting, and I don't want to do that. I'm here for these students, and I'm not here for the online world. Again, I'm 54. I come from a different era. I didn't care about that world. I cared about those students. I said, but trust me, when I start speaking, you don't need a microphone. I'm like Pavarotti. I'm like Rob Halford from Judas Priest. You don't need a mic. You can hear me. So Nathan records it. Thank goodness for Nathan Black, because he put that out that day. I remember there were 2 things in there too that I freestyled that day. So by that time in my lecturing, it was more freestyle than it was written speeches. And there was the spinach doesn't shit part when I was talking about the E. coli breakouts. On the way to Georgia Tech that morning, I'm listening to the radio and something about spinach. The spinach was recalled because of E. coli, and I'm in the car going, I'm so fucking sick of this with the E. coli blaming the plants. And I said to myself, spinach done shit in the car, and I said, oh. That's all I need to go on. So my freestyles back then were kind of like Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know if people know, but they really don't write scripts. They have an intro and an outro, and then they just fill it in. So all I needed was one line, spinach doesn't shit. And sure enough, when I got to that section, I'm like, I'm tired of you blaming the plants. E. coli comes from shit. 2 sources, human shit or animal shit. Spinach done shit. Broccoli doesn't shit. And I start running down a bunch of plants that don't shit. The crowd is laughing and getting it. There's a lot of truth and sarcasm, so I always use that. That was my George Carlin militant comedy roast with Malcolm X mixed into speech style. So that was really sweet. And then what I said after the Slaughterhouse video was also a freestyle when I said, right now on American highways, there are 5,000 concentration camp trucks. They're being taken to, and these animals are inside, being taken to buildings that we've constructed. That was also a freestyle. I'm glad he got that one on tape, because I was on fire that day. Now, here's something interesting. I always hated the first few lectures every semester. Now, people have told me I'm overly critical of myself, but I felt choppy when the semester started. I had been off a few weeks, so I needed to get into it, needed to get warmed up. But once you caught me a couple of weeks in every semester or mid-semester like that one, watch out, I'm on fire, because now I'm loose and I'm ready to go. And I used to force myself at that time to always do a freestyle, usually after the Slaughterhouse video, because I was all pumped up. But I would always interject something brand new I was thinking about. It was a great day. And Nathan Black. And by the way, that was also when you couldn't post a video longer than 10 minutes on YouTube. So it was posted in 6 or 7 segments.
Wow.
And then shortly after that, YouTube started letting longer videos go on.
So you had no idea when you did that speech that it was gonna blow up. You had no idea.
Not again. I had probably given. I'm guessing now. I'd probably given about 1,500 speeches by then. And the truth is, out of everything, 2,600, I think I only have maybe 10 on video. again, it was a different era where I just wasn't, I wasn't into documenting every single thing I did. Now, as I look back, I kind of wish there was more, especially Q&A sessions on video. It really would have been cool. The Q&A sessions were usually fantastic too. I really shine in that moment. You kind of see how you ask me questions and I'm ready to go. I love doing the Q&A with people. And again, depending on how they asked, that's what they got in return. You were serious, you got a serious answer. You were a bully, you got a bully answer back. I always enjoyed that stuff too.
And I'm about to shake Gary's world here by telling him about two ex-vegans that he might not be aware of that are mentioned here in the super chats. So the first one is from Richie Fongsalis. He says, Gary, how do you feel about ex-vegans such as that's Erin Janus? And do you personally believe people like her could ever come back to veganism? I mean, first off, did you know that
Erin I was just going to say, you got to be kidding me. Erin's not vegan, really?
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
It's terrible. She hasn't made like a kind of public announcement as such, but it's just very, very clear. So there was a leaked DM of hers a few years back to someone who was raising a vegan child, and we spoke about this earlier, where Erin had messaged her and basically said, you shouldn't do that. Like, I worry about your kid raising them on a vegan diet and stuff like that. And then we probed her on it. We questioned her about it. And we just said, are you vegan? Like, can you just tell us? And she was giving these really roundabout answers, just like, I'm vegan according to the original Vegan Society definition, you know, practical where possible and all that kind of stuff. And I ate, and she said something like, I ate a vegan cheese pizza last night. I felt terrible afterwards. Like, she's been really evasive. I did a video about it. She just blocks me on all channels. She never answered. So yeah, there you go. News
it's
to you.
Heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Yeah. I always liked Erin. In fact, I still have one of her videos posted on my website. What bothers me the most is when they go out and try to get other people not to be vegan. That's just the worst thing ever. It's bad enough that you're not being vegan. Can she come back? Ex-vegans coming back is a rarity. I got to tell you, out of all the people I've come across, from hunters and vivisectionists to flat out animal torturers, the people that I despise most at the top of the list are former vegans, because they know better and they usually spend their time trying to convince other people not to be vegan anymore, which is outrageous. And because what do you really say to them? I mean, it's one thing, listen, I can deal with a hunter. In most cases, I can deal with a vivisectionist because I don't think that they've heard the message properly. In fact, I always think, man, just give me 5 minutes with them. I can break it down. Now, that doesn't mean I will, but that's how I think. Like, I can get them. Somebody can still get this person. They're just so programmed. But when you become vegan, you understand, and then you stop. Well, what the hell am I supposed to say now? In fact, I ran into somebody at the AV protest yesterday saying he was a fan of mine. Oh my, I'm not vegan anymore. I'm like, what am I supposed to say to you? And then for the people who said, like Erin said, she had a vegan cheese pizza and felt bad, and this is what this guy was saying. I'm like, first of all, I'm 29 years vegan. Do you know what I eat nowadays? Maybe you need to give up all that mock shit, because I eat so cleanly. Erica and I haven't eaten a meal together in 10 years. Most vegans won't eat with me. I eat barley and beans and lentils for breakfast. I eat 10 to 12 pieces of fruit for lunch, and I eat 5 or 6 different vegetables for dinner with that new soy-free tofu made from fava beans. I'm huge on nutritious whole foods these days. My body thrives on it. I don't eat the mock meats anymore. What's the point? It was fun at the beginning, but this is a whole nother discussion. I just think fat is the root cause of all of our diseases, including for the vegans that are getting sick nowadays. It's because everybody has way too much oil. Every oil on the market, from the nastiest one to the so-called cleanest one, is 14 grams of fat per tablespoon. Now name me one person that uses 1 tablespoon. Bullshit. They take the bottle and they pour it over. There's 80 to 100 grams of fat. If you're a meat eater, you could add another 100 grams of fat. If you're a junk food vegan eater eating all that mock meat, you could also add another 100 grams of fat. Now, I have people eating like 300, 400 grams of fat per day. To me, as some of my older vegan friends were getting sick, I was looking for the commonality, the common link between meat eaters and vegans still. So this is my own personal epidemiological study, paying attention. And I'm thinking, what is that connection? What is it? Sugar? Well, it's not sugar, because I know vegans and I know meat eaters that don't eat sugar. Is it salt? Well, not salt. Again, I know both sides that don't eat it. Everybody still eats fat. That's what it is. Now, I'm usually ahead of the game when it comes to animal rights stuff. George, mark my words right now. Remember this day in 15 to 20 years when the medical community finally condemns fat as the root cause of all of our disease. You say, man, Gary told me that on my podcast about 15 years ago. I'm telling you, this is where it's at. And I only have a couple of doctors really backing me up on this. Dr. Douglas Graham, the 80-10-10 guy, he understands this. And John McDougall understood it as well with the low-fat vegan diet. But I'm telling you, you're going to feel a lot better. Get rid of the fat. I don't think anyone should be eating more than 20 grams of fat per day. I don't even get that close. I'm usually around 6 to 7 grams of fat. Now, that's when I'm at home, not traveling, a little tougher on the road, although I'm doing no fat breakfast and lunch still on the road, but the dinner's got some more fat, but I'm not going over 20. That's when the problems really kick in. But I'm sorry, back to the original question. I kind of went off on a tangent. Horrible, Aaron, come on, you know better, come on back. That's ridiculous. And anyone else that's doing this, stop it. And it's not about your health anyways, because I've often told people, even if I got sick and died, I get sick and I would die for them, because there's one thing I know: cows and pigs and chickens are not sandwiches. They're not food. They don't deserve to have their babies stolen from them and have their parts of their body cut off and their heads chopped off and their bodies chopped into pieces so we can have a sandwich. Lord knows that that's not the answer either. Why don't you just take a step the other way? Instead of going back to meat, why don't you go to fruitarianism? Maybe you need to take it up a notch then, or right. or stop the junk food veganism and go to healthful veganism. But the answer is never going back to oppression and torture and murder. And George, a couple of years ago, I heard there was a rumor going around that I wasn't vegan. I had a friend contact me. Karen sends me an email. She goes, Gary, is it true? I said, let me tell you this, as only Gary can be blunt. I burned down a fucking children's hospital before I ate a piece of meat. Are you fucking kidding me? She goes, okay, just wanted to make sure. That's the Gary I know. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Listen, here's one thing. There's only one thing I could understand from a longtime vegan: not being active anymore. You get burnt. You get stressed. I get that. It happened to me. I can accept that from anybody that's been in the game long enough. Okay, I get it. I can't confront people anymore. People make me crazy. I hate people. Okay, I get it. But not being vegan anymore? Just go be vegan and then be peaceful and, stay in your house and be a closet vegan. That's totally fine right now. As long as you put in your work, put in your years of activism, I can understand, time runs out.
Yeah, and just on the ex-vegan subject as well, we got another one that came in here, but I don't think Gary's going to know who this is, but I could be wrong. So Fun Times donates £1.99. Gary, speak to Alex O'Connor and help him, please. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Okay. So he's a very well-known YouTuber. His YouTube name is Cosmic Skeptic. He even gave a speech at the Vegan Camp Out in 2023, I think it was, or it was recently. And he's also publicly renounced veganism, said it gave him health issues and stuff. So I assume, Gary, you'll have the same thing to say to him, but ultimately you don't know who he is anyway.
Well, hold up. Ditto to what I said. But listen, again, if you're having issues, number one, you're probably not eating cleanly like I'm eating now, because I'm feeling great. I'm 54. Most people can't tell. I'm in the best shape of my life. But that's only because for 10 years I said, you know what, I'm tired of this. Now, I think it's the too much fat, too much vegan junk food. The other thing is, did you ever think that maybe you're just an addict? That's all. You're a fucking addict. And when you brought the addiction back, you felt better. Oh, well, that's what happens with addicts. You have you have a gambler that doesn't gamble anymore. All of a sudden he goes and he makes a bet. Oh, he feels great. He's alive again. You have an alcoholic that's been clean for 5-6 years, has a drink. All of a sudden, oh my God, I feel great. That's how addictions work. So beat your addiction. Have some willpower. Be strong. What are you so weak for that? Well, and again, why would plants make you not feel well? The whole thing is absurd. And why would meat make you feel well? Another absurdity. it's absolute addiction, or you're just eating like a junk food vegan. And that's probably going to catch up to a lot of people. Start eating cleaner. That's where it's at.
Yeah, well said. Going back to some of the stuff about your speeches, I saw an interview with you from the 90s, and it was from a guy who actually visited your house. And he said he saw books lying around your house about giving public speeches and stuff like that, and how to speak eloquently and how to persuade people of stuff. And one observation I always made about you, I've always referred to you as the human book you can't put down, because you have this very specific manner of speaking when you like when you open a speech or something, because long videos are boring, right, to most people, you know, and you watch an hour speech and, oh shit, I've got to sit through an hour of this. But somehow there's some kind of mesmerizing thing about the way you talk, the way your delivery, that you can't click that X on your browser to shut the window. You have to finish what you're saying. Is that natural to you, or did you learn this from like the books that you read that was mentioned in this interview? And can you recommend us those books?
No, it wasn't the books. That's me. And it's passion. It's my heart. It poured out of me. It's the promise I made to the elephant at the circus and to all the other animals. And I'm just an entertaining fella. Listen, I'm positive all my friends just keep me around for the entertainment factor. I've told them over the years, you guys, you just want to know what happened to you today. I'm like, you won't believe what happened. Crazy shit always happens to me. And I don't know. I'm animated. Look at me now. I'm a very animated person when I believe in something and I want to say something. So that's really all it is. It's natural, honestly. And that interviewer, by the way, it was Kathy Nelson. It was a local reporter. It was a woman. The book, Jerry Spence, How to Win an Argument Every Time. I don't even remember anything from it, if I even really read every word. I'm usually not a front to back book reader. I mentioned Eternal Treblinka earlier. I'm a skimmer. I have ADD, ADHD. I cannot sit down and read an entire book. I'm really good at skimming it though and getting all the. I'm like, oh wait, that's a good section. All right, there's a good section. So I can't tell you the last book I read from front to back. My advice: let it pour out. Don't be a politician. Don't plan too much. Speak for the animals like you would want to be spoken for. In fact, you can use my speech as a template. Now, when I say that, obviously some things aren't going to sound the same with you saying it. So tweak it. You use the format. Come out with a powerful statement. Challenge them on something. Bring in some more emotion. And by the way, use emotion. So this is some bullshit don't listen to society, by the way. Whatever society's doing, do the opposite. Society has no fucking idea. So they always say, Gary, you're too emotional. Emotion is the only thing that has changed the world. You don't think the I Have a Dream speech by Dr. King was emotional? You got to be kidding me. I have a dream? That's pure emotion. That touched people's hearts. Mine too. Use emotion. They're telling you not to use it because they don't really want you to be successful and make massive amount of change. They want you to be a politician. I find it weird that everybody says politicians are liars, and then everybody wants to act like one, or everybody wants somebody else to be like one. Don't do the politician thing. You know what the professors always told me? All of my professors. We never met somebody so open and honest, ready to discuss every issue and how they feel about it. We also never met a real activist. We only read about them in books. My God, I never met a real live activist. The professors loved my openness. Yet I got so much pushback from the animal rights movement saying, Gary, you're too harsh. You shouldn't support violence. You shouldn't say this and you shouldn't say that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, what did you come up with that in the boardroom? Because in the classroom on the street corner, it works. And if it did work, maybe I'd listen to you and maybe I'd change my style. But as long as the professors keep bringing me in, I don't understand why I'm getting so much pushback from the movement. It was crazy to me.
Yeah, the people who just tell you the message straight, they get remembered more than the people who, like you say, use this, who speak like politicians. And I'll give you an example of that. My dad has an interest in US presidents. Like if I visit my parents back home, like my dad has this big book of all the different, he has the bookshelf is full of stuff about the different US presidents. And the one that always stands out to him most, who I think he liked the most, was Reagan. Because if you look at the way politicians, presidents speak, will you be raising taxes? Well, what we've done is we've raised the percentage. Will you be raising taxes? Well, if you look at the fiscal report from, will you be raising taxes? Well, if you look at the so-and-so report from the Ronald Reagan, will you be raising taxes? Yes. There's something that stands out about those people, and
it's honesty. I don't know why people don't grasp honesty. And here, don't ever say what people want to hear. Say what people need to hear. That was my style. I just knew I had to lay it out. And that's why I said things like slavery or Holocaust or murder or rape. That's what it was. I wasn't going to play games. And I got news for everybody. If you think somebody's going to listen more because you say I'm plant-based or I'm an animal advocate, not an animal rights person. You know what I said in the speech? I'm a vegan animal liberationist. You want to get more truthful than that? That's what I am. They never made a professor kick me out. And just so everybody knows, don't think that they were vegan professors bringing me in. 90% of my professors were meat eaters. In fact, I used to speak in animal agriculture classes at Ohio State 6 to 8 times a year. I spoke to 250 to 300 future factory farmers. I would speak in slaughterhouses if they let me. Speak the truth. In fact, the David Zartman, the professor at OSU, the animal ag guy that brought me in, he brings me to his office. I'm sitting in his office before the lecture. On his wall, there's plaques. Pig farmer of the year, cow farmer of the year, dairy farmer of the year. I'm just thinking, where in the hell am I? And why would this guy agree to bring me in? Takes me down to his class, and he says the kindest things anyone ever said to me, introducing me. You have to hear this man speak. You might not agree, but he speaks from the heart, and it's real stuff. And I didn't get vegan professors to say nice things about me like that. And then the vegan professors, when I contacted them, would say, oh, Gary, I don't know if I could bring you in. It's kind of biased because I'm vegan. I probably have to get a meat eater to come in after. I said, what are you kidding me? We live in a meat eating world. You want to even out everything? Bring me in. I'm the evener. I'm the one that they need to hear. They've never heard this message. So the vegan professors gave me more problems than the meat eating ones did by far. And I spoke in rural America a lot too. Rural North Carolina, Halifax Community College. That was one of my stomping grounds. When I first got there, the students showed up in camouflage. All of them. I leaned over to the professor and I said, boy, they really came to fuck with me today, huh? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, look at the camouflage. He goes, Gary, welcome to Halifax Community College. This is how they dress every day. But they were some of the best students ever. And when I asked over the years why the small schools love me, I love a small school, by the way. I spoke at the big ones, Penn State, University of Michigan. You give me those rural community colleges, and I asked them, how come they're so wonderful to me? They listen to every word. They're taking notes. They got a notepad out. They would always say, they can't believe that you would come here to speak to them. Nobody comes to Halifax County Community College. You could be all these other places, and you chose to come here. That's where I wanted to be, in rural America. That's where the message really needed to be heard. And I tell you what, I had a ton of success in rural America. I really did. And I converted hunters. I did, a lot of them.
Yeah, I remember you saying actually that the quote unquote woker colleges you went to you were met with more idiocy because they thought they knew it all.
I hated them. Exactly. Yeah. How could this be? This can't be. I'm at Penn State. I never heard of this before. But I go to Halifax or I go to Oakland Community College, and notepads are out. Oh my God, really? That's amazing. It's interesting. But yeah, they were harder to reach. And I'll tell you, it was harder to reach the woke. Yeah, the woke crowd, because they thought they were doing enough because they recycled. So the comment, I already recycle, or I have an eco-friendly washing machine. I have to be vegan now and care about cows. I'm like, yes, you do. And that other shit you're doing, by the way, doesn't count for shit. It's minuscule. It's minuscule stuff. Veganism is where it's at. So yes, the bigger colleges, the woker, the woker the crowd, the tougher the crowd. I'll surprise everybody. My best talks also happen in Texas. If I could have lectured in Texas year round, I would have. Again, at least the conservatives let me know where they stood. And it went something like this. Prove it to me. Give me a chance. That's why I'm here. I want to prove it to you. And at the end, they say, you know what, Gary? That's the best speech I ever heard in my life. You got me. And the Democrats were, I know everything already. I know everything. Oh, come on. Get out of here. It can't be like that. They're not deep beaking. They're not stealing babies. They challenged everything. And that also became annoying, which is also led to my brain melt and led to my downfall. Like, if you know everything already, then why in the world are you in school anyways? How could you know everything? Why aren't you up here teaching somebody? But everybody's got this mentality that I know everything already. You can't possibly know everything. You need to open up minds and open up your mind and listen sometimes to somebody else.
Yeah, and that includes all of. I just want to say, even as a vegan activist of, well, since I saw your speech basically in late 2012, like I'm learning new stuff all the time. None of us know it all. We can't be so arrogant like that. We've all got to take in that information. And I tell you what, the first time I came across your speech, this is just going off the thing about not speaking like a politician and don't make it all about being liked. I remember, Gary, when I first saw your speech, I was in my bedroom in late 2012. I remember where I was because it was such an iconic moment. I was scrolling down my newsfeed on Facebook, and a music artist I listened to, JME, he just shared this best speech you'll ever hear. He just says, watch it, watch the whole thing. I was like, what the hell is this? I click on it. I was hearing all these words. You're funding a Holocaust. Animals are slaves. They're raped. All this kind of stuff. And it hit me in the gut. And I'll tell you what, Gary, I didn't like you while I was watching the speech. I thought, who's this fucker like on the stage, like saying all these bad things and making me feel shit. I don't like this dude. He comes across as so-and-so. And then after I'd watched the speech, it was just like, but he's right. And I'm glad that he said all of that stuff. And I'm glad he used all those words that we're told, you can't say that. You used the words that made me feel crap, but it worked. And then I liked you once I went vegan.
And it worked for me too. I mean, I said things that registered with me. I wasn't just out there scolding everyone else. I was scolding myself. I remember how I used to be, and I needed to hear somebody tell me it was slavery, it was murder,
right,
that you're responsible, that you need to be held accountable. This is on you, Gary. This is your lifestyle that's causing this pain and suffering. So I figured if it worked on me, and I was as stubborn as they come, I ate meat, cheese, milk, and eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it would have to work on everybody else. So yeah, it was genuine, it was real, and as my friends would say, it was quite entertaining.
Indeed. I've got a few more super chats come in, Gary. So Jania donates $10. She says, so much wisdom. Thank you. Emerging activist. So she's a new activist, I guess, then, Gary.
Hey, don't retire yet. You got to put in your time. 18 years is what I did. So at least get into that vicinity. Don't let me discourage you either. Understand what I've seen. I hope people prove me wrong, and humans can become enlightened, and we can achieve greatness and peace amongst the animal kingdom. So get on out there. Remember my retirement letter at the end, I said, tag you're it. Well, tag you're it. Go on out there, preach and teach. And don't think you can't get into the school systems either. If that's something you want to do, if you feel like you can get in front of a crowd, just start sending emails. That's another thing people tell me. You can't get into the school system and speak. I would say, why not? Well, how are you going to get through this, through the channels? Well, I'm going to send an email to the professor. Can I come speak to your class? 1 out of 100 has to say yes. And sure enough, it was 2 or 3 out of 100 saying yes. It'll be tedious at first. You got to contact all the professors, go to the website, grab their emails, send them a personal, but have a standard set letter ready to go, ask him to speak, and just cut and paste it and send it. You'd be surprised how many people are going to say yes. And don't charge. One of the things, I never wanted to make money off my lectures, off my activism directly. They loved that it was free. That usually was the closer, like, well, I don't know. I think I want you, but we don't really have a budget. I said, there's no budget. Fuck a budget. You say yes, and I will be there. I will make somebody else pay my way to get there. And thank you to all my sponsors over the years who always helped me get from point A to point B. They were instrumental in making this happen.
Yeah, no, huge props to them. We've got a super chat here from Jenny McQueen. She donated $6.99 Canadian dollars. Activist and vegan for 25 years. Gartho, I need to stick to AV and We the Free as I keep on getting arrested. Why don't they arrest the animal abusers?
Yeah, I don't know, because we live in a corrupt society. I had my confrontations with the police over the years. This one cop, I had an elephant hook at a Shrine Circus protest. And as they changed shifts, I turned quickly to the new cop, and he pulled his gun out, and he was shaking. He was, drop that weapon. And I said, no, you go pull your gun on the elephant trainer that's beating elephants with this weapon. I ain't dropping shit. I have an authority problem, in case you can't tell. And it didn't faze me that he was pointing his gun at me. My friend Laura Rogers was there. And there's this triangle standoff. Laura's going, Gary, drop it. He's going to shoot you. She knows how I am. Laura, I ain't dropping shit. He can pull his gun on the elephant trainer. I don't know why they protect the abusers of animals, but we live in an evil world, and the evil people get protected by the police force, which is outrageous. I wish I had a better answer than that, but it goes along with the territory. You know, we don't incentivize ethical behavior in our society. We actually mock people that are ethical. You have to fight through it. And by the way, 25 years vegan, she knows what I'm talking about with the pain, the brain melt, all the outrageous things that we've seen over the last couple of decades. Yeah, things are getting better. I just don't know if animals can ever become liberated. Sometimes I think it's going to be forced on us. Sometimes I think this whole cell meat stuff, which is a whole nother category. Sometimes I think that's gonna end the slaughterhouse industry. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm advocate in the production of lab grown meat, and I know you spoke out in support of it ages ago.
Sure.
It seems to be, and look, I mean, certain states are like banning it in the US because they obviously have ties to the farmers. And it's like, I'd say to any vegan who doesn't support the production of lab grown meat, if you're siding with the the actual animal agriculture industries on this issue, it's probably not the side you want to take. If animal agriculture are scared shitless by lab grown meat, such that states are even banning it, you probably know it's going to be a good thing for animals.
Right. And you're probably on the wrong side. You don't want to be on their side. I don't know why any activist is opposing it. Because listen, our objection is an ethical objection. Health issues aside, environmental issues aside, this is about ethics, eliminating pain and suffering. And if they eliminate it, I got to tell you, I would go away too. That's all I'm concerned about. So I don't know why anybody would oppose it at all. But I'll tell you this. I think the animal agriculture industry will embrace this as soon as they realize how much money they're going to save, because this is all about money. So right now, there has to be a field where they grow the corn, the wheat, the oats, and the soy. You got to pay somebody, a farmer, to cut all that stuff down. You got to ship all those grains over to the animals that are in another area, whether in the feedlot, a factory farm, or just a regular farm. You just got to feed all these animals. Then you got to pay somebody to bring the truck over. You got to pay gas for the truck. You might even have to pay for the entire truck. You got to take those animals, put them on the truck. You got to ship them to the slaughterhouse. Then you got to pay people to cut them up into pieces. Then you got to take all those dismembered bodies and bring them over to the processing plant and package them up. And then you got to put them on the truck to the grocery store. That's a lot of excess funds that they're wasting. But once they realize they build one nice big building, they grow the meat in one side of the building, and they package it in the second side, and the trucks are sitting right out there. You put them on the truck off to the grocery store. I don't know why they're fighting this, because they do this for money. But once they realize this is where it's at, that's where it's going to be at. And listen, you don't have to eat it as a vegan. I don't think I'm going to eat it. I'm beyond that stuff anyways. This is for the public, the general public that just won't listen and just won't change. And for anybody out there also that when they claim this is Franken meat, what the fuck is wrong with everybody? You think When I was a kid, turkeys used to be 10 to 12 pounds at the grocery store. They're now 20 to 30 pounds. You're eating Franken meat right now. Every single animal on the market has been genetically engineered. They don't let cows and bulls go behind the shed and fornicate. This is why they have animal agriculture classes in colleges, animal husbandry. They are genetically engineering animals. There's not one animal in the meat industry that hasn't been genetically engineered. So they are eating Franken meat right now, which also leads to my brain melt because they claim the cell meat is Franken meat. I'm like, you're eating it right now. You idiot. What in the world? Why can't you see this? It's maddening. It's maddening to be alive. The smartest, dumbest beings ever to exist.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Gary, I want to be conscious of your time and energy. So I have one last question for you, unless we get some more super chats in. But the question I wanted to kind of end with was, what are some of the key differences that you notice between sort of the 90s animal liberation movement, when you were, I guess, in your salad days or maybe even your heyday, compared to the current animal liberation movement? What kind of things can you tell us about that are different for any of us who obviously weren't around back then in the movement?
It seemed to be a little more radical, a little more in your face, willing to do things and take chances, a lot more direct action, a lot more civil disobedience. But at the same time, things haven't really changed that much. Now, let me throw this out there. I think there's a lot of stuff that we used to do, that we've done, that just isn't effective anymore. Civil disobedience. I cut my chops on that stuff, man. It was all back in the day, but I don't think civil disobedience works well anymore. I don't think the public pays attention. I don't think the court system pays attention or cares if you want to go to jail. Direct action was a lot more, but they weren't doling out massive sentences back then. I mean, I got a 6-month sentence. I think they've been giving out 5, 7, 10 plus years now to other people. In fact, I got a friend that's in jail right now, an old activist friend, Marie Mason, who's now Marius Mason. She's doing 22 years in a federal penitentiary because she burnt down a mink research lab at Michigan State University. I mean, that they're really coming down hard on anybody fighting for animals and trying to destroy the animal exploitation industry. Things are pretty much the same. Maybe there were some more activists, maybe there's less. It's kind of a hard question for me to answer, George. I wish I had a better answer. I'm also kind of fading right now. So that just, you know what though? It really doesn't matter. For anybody out there that wants to make a difference, live by the adage I live by. If you want something done right, do it yourself. Yeah. Don't think that you have to have a huge crew behind you. I didn't. Look at the change I made. And I'm not a genius. I'm not brilliant. I was just determined. I was just dedicated to go do something. That's all you need is dedication and determination. And you can make a world of difference. When we used to get media back in the day, most of the time, I was by myself getting front page articles in the Detroit Free Press, Detroit News, getting on the WJR radio, WWJ, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, or it was me and my right-hand woman, Laura Rogers, back in the day, just two of us reaching all these people, getting all this publicity. You don't need 1,000 people. You don't need 500 or 100. It would be nice to get those people, but man, back in the day in Michigan, if we had more than 7 or 8 people at a protest, it was, oh my God, there's 8 people showed up today. Good Lord. But you don't need a massive amount of people to make change. In fact, was that quote from Margaret Mead? It just hit me. Never doubt a small group of dedicated activists change the world. That's the only thing that ever has.
Yeah.
Just need dedication.
All right, we've got a few more super chats coming, Gary, and then I'll let you go because you say you're fading. So I want you to be sharp for that AV outreach. Moody Magpie asks, they donate £10 to Sasha Fon. They say, thanks for answering my earlier question, Gary. My partner and I are so happy you're back. We're both activists and respect you immensely. A lighter question, what animal do you relate to the most and why?
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. I've never been asked that. I've never been stumped. You got me stumped. I don't know who I relate to. I'll tell you who I really like. I told you about the giraffes. I really want to get close to a giraffe one day. They're so peaceful. I love sloths. I love butterflies. I mentioned during my sanctuary speech, Eric and I have been helping caterpillars become butterflies because caterpillars, 90% of them get eaten. This is something everybody can do, by the way. Go out and find the caterpillars before the birds and insects do. Put them in a safe enclosure. You just got to feed them the parsley and fennel and dill or milkweed for the monarchs. And sometimes you got to feed them every single day. Those caterpillars eat a lot of food. Just get those little cups that you put like a single rose in. So then you would put the fennel and the parsley into there so it stays alive. And then they eat it. And then every day you just change it out and then release them. So I really dig butterflies. I'm really into the herbivore animals these days. Although there is one animal that helped me change my mind that is not an herbivore. In fact, I'm debating whether to get a tattoo of this animal this week. There's somebody here who's a great tattoo artist. I've always wanted an elephant and an octopus on my forearm because both of them, the elephant opened my eyes and the octopus made me become vegetarian, not vegan. I didn't get that till the year after, but those were the two critters. But octopuses seem to be really damn cool too. I'd love to be able to hang out with an octopus one day.
Awesome answer. This is a spicy one here from Grey Knight 32, who donates $5. Is Gary aware about the apologetic vegans threatening to sabotage AV events that Gary will be participating in? George made a post on Instagram about it. I did make a post about that, Gary, and I can send you the screenshots if you want. Although I'm sure maybe Paul Bashir has already told you about this.
I was already told about it, and again, you would. It's not for me that I'm out there. I'm out there for the animals. So disliking me is one thing. And again, fine. It comes with the territory. I've accepted it. You don't have to like me. But I don't understand why you would even talk about messing up a protest on behalf of animals. These were the same people that wanted to mess up my sanctuary fundraiser in Frankfurt a few weeks ago. I can understand if the money was going to me. Hey, let's raise money for Gary. He's been working so long and he's broke, and let's give him some money. I could get that you didn't want to give me money, but that money, every penny went to Sasha Farm to a bunch of animals. So come to the fundraiser, tell me to my face, Gary, I can't stand you. You're an arrogant prick, but give the $120 for Sasha Farm. I can deal with it. But this is also something I think we talked about when it started. Why can't you just disagree with the few things I said and support everything else? Why do I have to? You set the bar so high that I cannot even get there. Even if I change my opinions on a few things, don't tell me you wouldn't find other things to be upset about. People need to grow up. Stop throwing people away. I hate our society right now. No, but as soon as there's a disagreement, people are done being friends with each other. In fact, in America, do you know that black Democrats and black Republicans hate each other? They no longer share their blackness because the politics have taken over. And the vegans in this movement, well, I don't like Gary said this and Gary said this and he's on this side and he doesn't like human rights anymore. And by the way, I understand who deserves rights with humans. I just don't think that they should be put before the animals. I'm tired of the humans coming first and animals last. I just want to flip the paradigm. So to those people, just grow up and learn to disagree and move on, man. Stop it. Stop with that woke cancellation nonsense. It's really childish. It's funny that honestly, most of my life, I used to think the conservatives and the Republicans in America were the childish ones. It's completely flipped. The woke crowd is completely childish. But you know what? I'm not here to argue and scream anymore. I'm a mediator. If that's how you want to be how you want to be. But you guys got to ease up on everybody else when they're not going along with everything that you demand. But if you're a vegan and the animals matter, that's what you need to focus on. Stop bringing human rights into the vegan animal liberation movement. There is no need for it. None whatsoever. With the one thing that you said earlier, if the human rights people started at least giving us something back, okay. Because keep in mind, my earlier speeches, I used examples of racism, sexism, heterosexism. I made those intersectional comparisons. But over the years, you know what? Enough of being taken advantage of. The human rights people take advantage of us. That's what they're doing. That's the only thing they're doing is taking advantage of us. Stop being walked on.
Yeah, very well said. Here's another reference I don't think Gary's going to get, but thank you, 40-year-old vegan donates $6 Canadian.99. Hey, Gary, appreciate all your work here in Canada and abroad. Just curious, how do vegans survive without marshmallows? I don't think you'll get this reference, Gary.
Well, there are vegan marshmallows, though.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
do you know who Ali Tabrizi is?
No.
Have you seen Seaspiracy?
Oh, somebody just told me that was his reason for not being vegan, right? He couldn't
basically, yeah.
Oh my! But can you imagine? By the way, who the fuck eats marshmallows when unless they're 4 years old? Who the fuck? I haven't had vegan marshmallows in 25 years since they first came out. I don't even want them. Who cares?
I think, yeah, it was about buying them for his kid to go camping or something, as if there aren't other things you can eat. I mean,
yeah, it's got to be marshmallows. Again, the smartest, dumbest beings. Can you imagine the excuses that people come up with? Oh, this guy I met at the AV demo yesterday, his excuse was he had a peanut allergy. Well, okay, I'm sorry. And I said to him, I said, since when are peanuts and lentils and barley and quinoa and millet and fruits and vegetables? So don't eat peanuts. In fact, to me, it's the worst tasting nut anyway. I never eat peanuts. Peanuts suck. Why would having a peanut allergy prevent you from eating 99.99% of the items that don't have peanuts in it?
Yeah, and you never hear it the other way around. You never hear, I can't be non-vegan because I have a dairy allergy. It's always, I can't be vegan because I have a nut allergy or a soy allergy.
Yeah, but all those people do is end up not eating dairy. Like, just, okay, take out the peanuts and eat everything else. And all the meat eaters that still eat meat, well, I just have a dairy allergy, so they just still eat meat. Like, what? I don't even get it.
Yeah.
Brain melt.
No logic. Right, we've got one here from Chris Hines. He donates £10 to Sasha Farm. He says, is Gary familiar with the band Earth Crisis from Syracuse, who promoted veganism hard in the 90s? Also, thanks for inspiring me to start school talks. I used to email you the vids for feedback. Legend.
Sweet. Yeah, I do remember Earth Crisis, actually. In fact, if I dug deep enough, I probably got a CD of them buried somewhere in my CD collection, showing my age. Not really online with everybody else. I still got a package of CDs. Yeah, Earth Crisis rock too. By the way, I have a heavy metal Jones. I've been a heavy metal fanatic since I was a kid. You've already heard me mention Rob Halford a couple times. I'm a Judas Priest kind of dude, AC/DC, and then go to the 80s with Steelheart, all that 80s metal, rock and roll, Zeppelin, Queen. Yeah, this is where my musical taste lies. So I definitely remember Earth Crisis.
Awesome. We've got one here from Catherine Hunter, £10 donated. She says, I have 2 monthly direct debits to 2 local sanctuaries. I also volunteer at one of them and do a weekly feed shift minimum, and it's my favorite night of the week. Everyone should just donate £1 monthly.
Awesome. And by the way, of course, I asked for Sasha, but if it's not Sasha, because you got stuff in your area, please. Makes me happy too. Donate to the one in your area if that's what you want to do, and donate a few hours too. Those were some of the best days of my activism career, was being up at Sasha Farm on hay day. And nobody wants to bale all that hay, but I used to love that, man. We would stack 1,000, 1,500 bales of hay in one day. Very, very rewarding. It's great work, and the animals need it. So yeah, help out.
Amazing. And then we've got 2 more donations, Gary, and then we'll let you go. We'll let you escape. So we've got this one from Leguminati. I think they're calling you out here, Gary, on your position about carnivores. They say, you say fuck lions, zebras want to live. Do you also say fuck humans, animals die in crop farming? Well, I assume you do. For vegans, or do you just condemn others while excusing yourself?
Well, first of all, it's not an intentional thing that happens in the crop. It's one of those byproducts. But I'll tell you what, here's the issue. That can be solved. And that can be solved with indoor vertical farming, which is where we're going to be headed. Then they can protect against bad weather. And I'm not just talking if climate change is real or not. There's still bad weather going on. There's still infestations. The world is going to be headed towards that. The only way to solve a slaughterhouse is to shut it down. And there is no rape going on in the fields. There is no baby stealing going on. There are no, the whole industry The meat, dairy, and egg industries are set up, built on torture. And at the very least, at least those animals were free.
Yeah.
They had the cows and the pigs and the chickens, and then never get freedom, never get sunlight on their skin these days. But listen, I didn't say there were other issues going on. Let's not be nitpicky like that. And by the way, I thought he was going to say something else that I used to get. Gary, you hate humans. You're a human. Does that mean you hate yourself? Stop it with the Pee Wee Herman retorts, okay? But that's a whole nother issue, by the way. I mean, I'm tired. I like how he has to ask me this at the end of 2 hours of my brain. I got nothing left. I have a long answer for that too when I'm sharper. Maybe next time I'm on your show, we can start with that.
Yes, 100%. And then very last super chat, Gary, just a very simple message. Marcos Zuganellis donates 20 euros and says, vegan forever. Thank you, vegan activists. I think that I might have actually read that one out earlier. So,
and actually, by the way, I want to go back to the previous one. You know what? I don't care if all humans die, including vegans. Just know that I'm South Park. I make fun of everybody, and I've made fun of vegans. I make fun of everybody. But let's put it in the proper order. At least let's get rid of the meat, dairy, and egg eaters first. Then we get rid of the child molesters and the human rapists and the murderers. And then if we want to get rid of the vegans because of the crops, okay, I will sacrifice my life, but don't put me ahead of everybody else. That's bullshit.
Nice one. Brilliant, Gary. And thank you so much for coming onto the stream. Do you have a final message for anyone just before we end it? And I just want to say I'm absolutely honored to have you on. So thank you so much for your time. But if you have a final message, please let us know.
Thank you for having me on. Preach and teach as long as you can until you can't do it anymore.
Peace, everyone.
All right. Peace out.